What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Life Coach Zach podcast. I'm your host, Zach Rance. I'm here with a very special guest today, Britt Frank, clinician, educator, and trauma specialist. Britt, how you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to hop on the podcast today. I came across your Instagram from another psychotherapist or doctor, and I really wanted to connect with you and get your expertise on emotional intelligence.
Awesome. I love talking about emotional intelligence because without it, our lives
Amazing.
are off the rails. Yes.
Absolutely. It's something, introduction. I know we don't really know each other that well. Emotional intelligence. I talk a lot about mental health, right? And our mental health is our thoughts, and our thoughts turn into emotions. And it's really important for us to identify and acknowledge and be aware of our emotions without becoming them. Someone could say, I'm so sad. No, you're Britt. You're not sad, right? You feel sadness. And sometimes when we start to identify with these emotions, it becomes our temperament, it becomes our personality, and then we get into a feedback loop of negative thought patterns that create more bad emotions. And, you know, it's easier said than done, but what are some ways that someone can increase their emotional intelligence?
So I love that you're doing that and you're coming from the lens that you come from. Like you said, if I said I am sad, it's like, no, I am Britt. That's like if I had a fucked up knee and I'm like, hi, I'm knee injury. We don't want to, emotional intelligence is about knowing we don't lead with our issues. We don't lead with, and I've had all the mental health diagnoses. Like I've had them all, addiction, personality disorders, the whole gamut. The work that I do really focuses on understanding that emotions are not in your mind. Mental health is not a mental process. Mental health is a physical process. It's in our physiology. So emotional intelligence, you could actually say it's body intelligence. What does my body do when I'm sad? What is my body doing when I'm pissed off? Because if you don't know that your body's involved, you're going to feel so fucked up and have no idea why. It's like, you're not crazy. You don't have a mental problem. You have a whole body physiological thing going on. And often our mental health symptoms is our bodies doing exactly what our bodies are supposed to do if it's under threat, or if it even thinks it's under threat, even if there's no threat there.
Right. Amazing. It's that chronic mental stress that creates diseases and illnesses. And you said how emotions, it's I forgot what the word used was, but it's body awareness, or has to do with the body. So I read in a Joe Dispenza book, I'm sure you're familiar with him, emotions is just energy in motion. Is that something you agree with?
I absolutely agree with that, yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, how emotions is energy in motion?
Sure. And the definition that I like to use for emotions is emotions are body sensations with a story attached to them. So if I'm about to do a marathon and I've been training for months for it, my stomach's going to be hurting, my jaw's going to be clenched, my mouth is dry, my hands are sweaty. Those are physical sensations. But because my story is this thing I've been training for is about to start, my emotion will be excitement. If I'm standing in a dark street by myself at 3 a.m. and I don't know where I am, I'm going to have the same body sensations: clenched stomach, clenched jaw, dry mouth, sweaty palms. The story is, I don't know where I am, oh shit, and then the emotion will be fear. So we need to understand that emotions are body sensations with a story attached to them. And if our story is wrong, we're going to feel things and not know why. So a mismatched story, physical sensation creates all manners of fuckery with emotions.
Yikes, so much fuckery. I love that you brought that up about our emotions is tied to a story, because that story doesn't necessarily have to be true. Like if I tell myself the story that I'm rich and I have everything I need and all my basic needs are met and I can buy the person behind me Starbucks because I'm rich, even though I only have $1,000 in my bank account, I'm going to feel gratitude. I'm going to feel appreciation, right? I'm going to feel security and peace in my heart. And those emotions are healthy emotions. So the consciousness aspect of emotional intelligence is being aware of the story you're telling yourself. Is that right?
100%. And what you were just describing is great. If you have resources, if you have your basic needs met, if you have relative safety, trying to create stories of gratitude is helpful. If you actually have no money in the bank and you actually have chronic illness and you're actually not able to meet your basic needs, if you're telling yourself, I should be gratitude, I should be thankful, then you're just gaslighting yourself. And then you're going to have all of these mismatched things. It's like, no, if everything is crappy, you're allowed to feel anger. And our culture is and I'm a big gratitude, positivity, all of the things. However, if there's a real issue happening, your story is, I'm allowed to have pain about my things. Or just because I have all my basic needs met doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have stories that create fear or pain or sadness. All of our emotions are part of our biology. We're allowed to have all of them. And we're allowed to experience all of them, not just the good ones.
Yep, absolutely. Being hyper realistic. Hyper realism, right? So I love that. I love that. So you're a psychotherapist, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And psychotherapy, from my understanding, I don't know much about psychotherapy, but you help others work through mental disorders.
That's kind of the basic definition of what psychotherapy
Surface
is.
level?
But
Okay.
you don't have to have a mental disorder to need therapy. Basically what I do is help people clear out all the shit that helps them from hearing themselves think. It's like, who am I? Who am I without the stories that people say about me? Who am I? What do I actually think? What do I actually feel? What do I actually want? That's that's how I approach psychotherapy, is let's get rid of all the crap that interrupts your innate knowing of who you are, what you want, and how to go after what you want. So that's what therapy is.
Amazing.
No mental disorder necessary to do therapy.
Amazing. Therapy. I went to therapy for about a year and a half. It was very helpful. Just having someone that listens to you non-judgmentally in a sacred space helps. Venting helps. Listening to your thoughts after you articulate them, to whether it's a wall, a mirror, or a therapist, helps. And
Yeah.
as a life coach, I'm very similar to a therapist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not saying I'm a therapist, but I'm very similar to a therapist in the sense that during my one-on-one sessions, I'm listening 90% of the time. I'm
And
listening.
yeah.
There's this always happens at 4 o'clock. And I'm usually recording a podcast at the time. My Alexa goes off to meditate. And I'm sorry, it just distracted me. But if you had to give someone advice on emotional intelligence, what are some of the basic things that someone can do to create more emotional intelligence?
And so the definition of mental health that I love, that I use, comes from an author that I love, M. Scott Peck. Mental health is a commitment to reality at all costs. So if you want to be emotionally intelligent, telling yourself, I'm going to buy everybody Starbucks and everything is great and everything is happy, there's a degree to which that is no longer emotionally intelligent. It's like, nobody. It's like, no, you're broke and you're not safe. And, I was a drug addict. It's like, no, Britt, you're actually not okay. You're not fine. So let's start with emotionally intelligent is being able to accurately match up your body sensations with the accurate stories that are going on, and then having choices and options and strategies to know what to do about it if they're mismatched. So stop lying to yourself about yourself is being emotionally intelligent. Yeah.
As I listen to you say that, for a second, and I'm being fully present here right now, but for a second I lost it, and I was like, how does that relate to my life? Because if I were to lay out all the facts of my life, I would be I am super grateful, super happy, super appreciative for all the things I have. But sometimes and I'm going to be a little vulnerable and transparent here, like sometimes I don't really know where to go. I know the activities and the micro tasks that I need to execute on a daily basis to create more traction, to move all my businesses forward, and to invest in my relationships, and to be more intentional about my health, physical and mental, emotional, my relationship with God. But sometimes I don't really know exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. And because I don't have that ultra clarity on what I'm trying to accomplish, I feel like my emotions are very drastic, like super polarizing. One day I'm on top of the world, windows down, screaming songs. I'm super happy. And then some days I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind my colleague that's, doing all this stuff. And I'm so far behind this guy. And how do I deal with that?
So my question for you, and I'm not going to turn this into a therapy session, I promise. But my question for you is, where do you find yourself getting really stuck? Like, where do you find yourself just in either like analysis paralysis where you're so in your head you can't move? What is the thing that keeps you from doing the things and knowing the things? Like, where do you
As
find
bad as Yeah, that's a great question. As bad as this sounds, I feel like I'm at my worst mentally and I'm the most stuck when some of my friends are telling me how much money they're making doing other things.
so
Honestly, that's really where my inadequacy comes from, and
and
that feeling.
of stuckness. I appreciate you sharing that because it's such a thing that we're not supposed to talk about and we're not allowed to talk about. But part of emotional intelligence, it's what I call, it's, my little catchphrase is shadow intelligence. What are those dark secret thoughts that we all think? We all think them. It's like, I have a really good friend. We both have high shadow intelligence. So when she's killing it, I can say, okay, there's a part of me. There's like this little secret part of me that's so jealous and feels so insecure. It's not me.
Right.
It's not I am sad. I have a part of me who feels this. And then she can say, instead of getting all defensive and pissy, she'll go, oh my gosh, what does that part of you need? How can we help that part of you join the party? And know there's enough for everybody.
Amazing.
My success doesn't mean less for you. And naming these shadowy parts of us that we don't like and making room for that. Emotional intelligence is making room for wholeness, not just goodness, not just niceness, but wholeness, which means all those little parts of ourselves have a seat at the table.
Right. So why can't I be happy for my friend that's telling me all the amazing things he's doing?
So there's a lot of, you ask 20 therapists that question, you'll get 20 different answers.
Okay.
My take on it, why can't you be happy for him, is because you're too busy fighting with yourself about that little shadow part. I should be happy for him and da-da-da-da, and telling all yourself all the affirmations. What would happen if you actually spoke to this part of yourself like it's a separate entity and was like, hey, bud, I know you're not feeling good. Where'd you get that story? Where's your story coming from of this like not
Right.
enoughness? How can I help you through it? And it becomes self-parenting. Instead of self-talk, we want to self-dialogue with these parts instead of a monologue. I can do this. I'm great. It's like, no, little dude, you can do this. It's going to be okay. Like, it's parenting the parts of ourselves.
Right.
That we don't like. Yeah.
It's dialogue, not monologue.
Exactly. That's
There's two people. There's two people there. There's my thoughts, and then there's the awareness of my thoughts.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so ironic. It's not ironic, but it's just the word I go to when I think about how awareness is the foundation for so many things. For diet, for physical exercise, for relationships, for consciousness, for emotional intelligence. What are some ways that someone can cultivate more awareness in their life? More specifically with emotional intelligence and mental health?
The number one key to awareness is permission and then willingness to get really honest. So with diet, and I see this in my practice all the time. I want to lose weight. I want to, hit my goals. I want to whatever. It's like, that's great. And there's another part of you that's afraid. What's it going to mean if I lose all this weight? Who's going to who's not going to like me anymore? What relationships are going to have to change? Oh shoot, if I look this way, I will become sexually desirable. And what about that? So we have to get really honest that there are parts of ourselves that do not want the goals, the money, the health, the friendships, the abundant life. There are parts of us that are scared of that. So we need permission to let every thought be present. They're thoughts. They're not necessarily actions or realities. They're thoughts. If you don't give permission, you're fucked.
Right. Okay, so what's a practice that you can do to give yourself that permission?
So a really fun one is to ask yourself every day, what are 5 lies that I told to myself today? And if you're like, oh, I didn't lie, like bullshit. We all lie, myself included.
Bullshit.
It's bullshit. 5 lies. If you were in therapy, I'd make you do 20, but you're not. So fine. 5 lies and spend time with yourself. I'll get on the treadmill tomorrow. It's like, no, you won't. And I know you won't. And you know you won't. So I'm only going to have 1 drink. That's bullshit. And I know when 1 means 10. So let's start with what's really true. To cultivate awareness, start with where are you lying to yourself? And if you're willing to do it, and write it down every day at the end of the day, where are 5 lies? You'll be amazed how fast you can get back into motion.
Amazing. And, I quickly went to what are the lies that I tell myself every day. And as soon as I had 2, and I'm not going to share them because they're kind of personal, but the two lies that I thought of in my head, as soon as I was like, Zach, that's bullshit, I felt self-compassion. Yeah. I I felt self-compassion, like, oh, dude, it's okay. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay, yeah, but don't fucking bullshit yourself. Don't lie to
Exactly.
yourself.
It's like what you would say to a kid, like I don't have actual children because I'm so busy with all the kids in my head and my inner children and everything. But, it's like, okay, you're lying. What's the real truth? The real truth is I'll use myself. I don't want to stop using drugs because using drugs feels good. And if I stop, I'm going to have to feel really shitty and really sad. And I don't want to stop. Great. The fastest way to stop an addiction is to admit you do not want to stop. I really want to stop. I really want to get healthy. Bullshit. Start with what's true. Then you can cultivate self-compassion. And then you can take that
I love
self-compassion
that.
to awareness. And then awareness leads to action, leads to change.
I love that. I love that so much. Quick story, actually. I think you would really appreciate this. I have not told anyone this, but I've been going to AA like 2-3 times a week. I don't touch alcohol. I promise, I really don't drink. I maybe 2 drinks a month. And not because of the health reasons and because I think it's immature or whatever, like has nothing to do with that. I just get severe hangovers. My body does not respond to alcohol well, but I've been going there so I can learn more about addiction, so I can help some of my clients that are going through alcoholism or addiction. I want to learn about the 12-step process. I want to learn how people cope with addiction. And there's so many different angles and so many different ways that people go through their therapy and go through the 12 steps. But I love how you mentioned the lies. I think that all the people that are in addiction, the ones that are successful, are very realistic with themselves, right? They don't tell themselves lies, and they certainly don't believe the lies, right? Because there's all of them say, hey, look, I am powerless to this disease, and I cannot just drink a drink. I can't. I'm not that type of person. I will never be that type of person. It's either I'm an alcoholic or I'm 100% sober. And understanding your strengths and your weaknesses, we're all different biological human beings. What you respond to this way, I respond to differently, right? And I think I really commend and acknowledge the people that are going through that. And it's not easy, and it is somewhat genetic for sure. So I don't know. I just want to touch on that
Yep.
and say that to all my followers and my listeners that that's something I'm learning and trying to get more experience around.
Can I speak to that?
Please.
Again, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, because we need people to be honest about their struggle. No one wants to follow a perfect person because it's impossible and it's bullshit. So thank you for giving permission. I've worked the 12 steps in several programs. I love the 12 steps. They've saved my life. However, number one, addiction isn't always a disease, and it's not always genetic. There's 1,000 reasons why people get stuck in addiction. One of the limitations of AA is that if you're not abstinent, you're an addict. And it's a very binary, black and white, you're this or that. It's not always true, number one. Number two, I separate from 12 steps on the whole character defect and moral failings, because addiction, in my experience, and in all the people that have trained me, addiction is not a moral defect. It is an attempt by our system to protect us from pain. And in the absence of some other part of us taking over and coping with the pain, addiction is self-protection. It's not a character failing. And that's so important to start with. Your system's doing its damnedest to protect you from death or pain. Addiction is a coping mechanism. It's not a good one, but we have to start with what's the function of addiction. It's pain maintenance. It's pain management. It's keeping us alive. And I thank all my addict parts, because I would be dead. I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't learn how to cope with my life using addiction. So 12 steps are awesome. Everyone should do it. And it is not a moral defect, in my opinion.
Amazing. Well said. And it's funny that you said that, because I agree with that also. When they say alcoholism, it's a disease, and I was born with this disease. And, when you're in the room, I can only speak for myself. When I'm in the room, I want to believe that. I want to believe that for everyone. But at the end of the day, whatever works. They're just trying to get sober. They're just trying to get clean, rebuild back their relationships with their family and their children, and get back into society and hold a job and all those things, right? So whatever they got to do that, yes. And look, we can disagree. I agree with you. I'm telling you, I agree with you 100%. It's not black and white. It's not binary. You're not just an alcoholic, or you can be sober. But I agree with you, absolutely. But whatever works. Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I get a lot of pushback because I was really, really like hardcore 12 stepper. And then I started to shift. And it's like, well, what if we looked at addiction? It's not, for some people, in some cases, it's a disease. In some people, in some cases, it's an incurable mental illness. In some people, for some cases, it's something else. And the treatment is different and the path forward is different. And so, again, my take is make room for all of it. 12 step is one path. It's not the only path, and it's not necessarily the best path. Mm-hmm. It is one of many paths to whatever you define recovery as for you.
Can I ask you a question? On the spectrum from secular religion to spirituality, where do you fall?
So I grew up super agnostic. Then I became like super hippie. Then I joined a fundamentalist Christian cult and did that for a while. And now I fall on the do you. I'm spiritual. I do not subscribe to any particular dogma. And I believe spirituality isn't just what you believe. It's what inspires you and who are you taking your marching orders from. If I'm so worried what my mother's going to think of me, I have made my mother my spiritual power. If I'm so worried about what my friends are going to think, they're my spiritual higher power. So what inspires you? Where do you take your marching orders? That's my spirituality. Yeah. That's the frame I come from.
I like that. And you know what? That's helping me a lot. That's helping me a lot because you've went from here to there to here to there to like kind of here. And I'm not that I'm similar to that. I was raised Jewish. Family's oh yeah? Yeah, I was raised Jewish. My family is pretty religious. We attend the high holy days and we do Hanukkah and stuff. Not conservative, more reformed. But I, after reading a ton of books on spirituality, find that it's healthier for me and I have a better relationship with God if I don't identify with a word and I identify with a certain way that religion is. But I do want to say this, that I feel like if life after death was taken out of the equation, we wouldn't really have religion.
I love the turn that this conversation has taken because I grew up Jewish too. And the most rebellious thing that you can do, as you know, like I'm a Long Island Jew girl. The most rebellious thing you could do is not get a tattoo or dye your hair. It's to become a Christian. The only thing that a Jewish girl can do to really rebel in a hardcore way is to come home and say, I believe in Jesus. And so I did. And then from one extreme to the other, you know, it's so important to know spirituality doesn't need to involve God either. It's what lights you up. And my spirituality changes on any given day. Some days it's my business. Some days it's like the ocean. Some days it's music. Some days it's like food. It doesn't matter. It's what makes you less of a dick in your life. That's your spirituality. Like that's the whole point of it, is to like, don't be a dick. Whatever you need to not be a dick is your spirituality, and I support that.
I love that. Don't be a dick. Help people, make others happy, give, serve. That's the whole point of human beings. Like we're supposed to help each other.
Well, and to be happy, because the thing is that you can help other people and be a total miserable piece of shit. You know, happy people generally out of that overflow want to give. Happy people want to support. Happy people want to lift other people up, and they know they don't have to like protect their own little slice of like existence. So my thing is be happy. Go figure out how to be happy. If serving others helps you with that, fine. But if you focus on being like the happiest version of you can, you're going to find giving and supporting and helping is going to be part of that.
Well said. What are your core values?
Honesty. That's a biggie for me, because in the mental health world, in the wellness world, in the fitness world, and in the church, religious, you know, spiritual world, there's so much bullshit. So authenticity and honesty, and then boundaries is another big core value of mine. You know, like you can be authentic and vulnerable with boundaries. You can have compassion with boundaries. Anything that exists without boundaries tends to go sideways very quickly. So honesty, boundaries are biggies for me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Same here. My core values are health and happiness. And I feel like honesty goes along. Not just honesty with other people, but honesty with myself. Yeah, I think that's even more important, right? Like I tell white lies to people. Like for example, if I ran 13.2 miles, I ran 14 miles today. Right? No, I didn't run 14 miles. I ran 13.2 miles. right? Or just things like that. Or, yeah, I fast every single day. No, 2 days a week, I eat, in the morning. But I tell white lies to other people. But you know what? It's more important that I'm being honest with myself and taking ultra accountability and responsibility for my choices, my thoughts, and my actions, right?
So you're not my client, but if you were, I would say, here's a fun exercise
Please.
for you or for anybody. Catch yourself in a lie and then try to catch it in the spot. So if I'm saying to you, oh my gosh, I ran 13, miles today. Wait, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. I ran 12.9 and just catch them in real time.
I am going to start doing that. I love that. Oh my God. I'm literally going to start doing that. Oh, I ran 13.2 miles. Or no, I ran 14 miles today. Actually, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. I ran 13.2 miles. God, I would gain so much more respect if I said things like that.
And people will respect you more too, because generally people know when we're full of shit.
I was love that.
Like, they know. I respect the hell out of people who catch themselves in lies and go, no, not like backpedaling, just say it. Oh, wait, no, that was a full-on lie. Blah. And it's not a big deal, and it's not that deep, and we don't have to make a thing out of it, but catch it, name it, own it, fix it in real time, your life will change.
It's not like you're being malicious or trying to manipulate anyone. You just told a lie, and it just happened. Oh, wait, that's a lie, XYZ. Yeah. Amazing. Britt, so last thing I wanted to touch on. Super congratulations on your book coming out. March 15th, is that the date? And you can pre-order it right now, right?
Yeah, you can go to scienceofstuff.com and pre-order it there.
Scienceofstuff.com. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, head over to scienceofstuff.com and check out...
Stuck. CK. Science of Stuff.
Okay. Go over there. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to drop the link below to Britt's website and that website as well. It has all of her social media pages, so you can click that link. Britt, thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the work you're doing. You're awesome.
Thank you. Britt, have a wonderful day. I'm sure I'll see you again soon, and looking forward to checking out the book.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye.